Shame on you for having that medical gear outdoors. Her voice sliced the room like a siren as she leveled her gun, square at my daughter's ventilator. What she didn't understand? I wasn't just some helpless father figure. I'd trained with the Delta Force. One smooth movement, and the next thing anyone knew, I was the one holding the gun. Police sirens were audible in the background. My daughter? She grinned behind her breathing mask as they led Karen off in handcuffs. You're my hero, Dad. Take a moment before you move on to the rest of this shocking moment. Comment where you're viewing from, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more true stories. It began on what was to be a peaceful Saturday morning, a quiet stillness, shattered by a voice so high-pitched it hurt like shattered glass cutting through air. That disgusting machine must be removed. I slowly raised my head from the task of changing Olivia's ventilator. There she was, a woman, a stranger, standing uninvited at our doorway. And she wasn't by herself. Her anger filled the whole entryway. "Excuse me," I said, my voice stern but controlled. Without so much as thinking, I stepped to stand between her and my daughter. 12-year-old Olivia sat quietly in her wheelchair beside the window. That's when the woman pointed with a manicured finger straight at the generator on our front porch. "It's ugly and loud. I can hear it from my garden." I took a deep breath, counted to 3. Just the way I was trained to do when everything gets tight. We'd lost electricity an hour before, but to most, that's a nuisance. To Olivia, who needs a ventilator to breathe, it's a matter of life and death. "Ma'am, that generator keeps her medical equipment running," I explained, my voice as level as I could manage. "She has spinal muscular atrophy. She needs this to breathe." She didn't blink, didn't soften. "I don't care what she has," she snapped, face reddening. "I'm Victoria Harrington, president of the Mountain View Estates HOA, and Section 8 of our covenant says, no mechanical equipment visible from the street." I felt Olivia's small hand tighten around mine. Behind her glasses, her eyes were wide, but not confused. She knew exactly what was happening. "Dad." That one word, almost a whisper, said it all. I tightened my grip on her hand. "It's okay, Liv," I said, my eyes still on the woman. "Miss Harrington, this is life-supporting equipment. There must be an exception." "No exceptions," she snapped, entering our residence now. No knock, no invitation. "I've managed this HOA for 15 years. I will not allow our property values to decline over this." She gestured once more, like Olivia's device was a bag of garbage. And in that moment, something within me clicked. She had no concept of what line she had just crossed, but she was in for a surprise. Values fall because individuals like you believe rules don't exist for them. Her voice echoed, every word edgier than the previous. But one sentence paralyzed me. "You people." My teeth ground together. I'd heard that cadence before, in war zones during hostile standoffs, and with 20 years of experience in Delta Force, I could smell it like a sixth sense. This wasn't an ordinary neighborhood disagreement. This woman, she threatened, not national security, but the safety of my child, and to the peaceful existence we were creating here, just 1 week into our new home. "The Americans with Disabilities Act makes reasonable accommodations," I said, maintaining my tone steady. "That generator? That's not an appliance. It's life support." Her gaze turned coldly on Olivia's ventilator, the tubing running to her tracheostomy, and then back to me. And what I had seen in her face was not anger alone. It was disgust. "You should have thought of that before you moved into an upscale area," she hissed. "There are homes for children like her." Olivia's fingers clung to mine fiercely, not through weakness, but from the emotional sting of those words. She was shaking, and this time, it wasn't her illness. It was the harshness. "Miss Harrington," I spoke softly, dipping my voice. The same voice that had made insurgents question their decisions mid-interrogations. "You need to leave. Now." She tilted her chin mutinously, pulling out her phone. "Or what? I'm documenting this trespass. You've got 1 hour. Take away the generator. or it's a $500 penalty, daily, and yes, it doubles. I felt the rage welling up, but kept it under control. Years of training weren't for naught. That generator's not a choice, I explained with feigned composure. Without it, my daughter can't breathe. Her eyes fixed on Olivia, who was now easily upset, her eyes wide with terror. Not my problem. Rules are rules. And that was it. That callous sentence broke what was left of patience in me. Not that she would notice, I was trained too well for that, but something had changed. The generator remains, I told her, my tone firm, and you will depart, or I will call the police. You are trespassing. Her expression grew black, a fresh wave of anger surfacing. Do not threaten me. Do you even know who my husband is? Judge Harrington, County Court. One word from me and... Dad. The abrupt alarm of Olivia's ventilator cut through the room. Her heart rate monitor was beeping. Rapidly. Too rapidly. She was gasping for air, obviously distraught. I don't feel good. My attention flew to her immediately. It's okay, sweetheart. I've got you. Just take slow breaths. I'm here. I took her vitals, recalibrated the settings, each motion deliberate. Behind me, Victoria's tone oozed condescension. See? You're doing this. You're upsetting her, all because you won't follow the rules like everyone else. But I didn't glance at her. Not anymore. Because this was not about her. It was about keeping my daughter alive, no matter what. She was transfixed now, zeroed in on Olivia, her eyes ignoring me entirely as my daughter's oxygen levels continued to fall. The monitor beeped once more. Get out, I told her, voice low and deadly again, eyes fixed on my daughter. Now. Not until you will. I stepped in front of her, and whatever she saw on my face froze her solid. She left her sentence incomplete. My daughter is in pain. If you don't go now, I'll have you remove myself. For the first time, there was doubt creeping into her eyes, but for only a heartbeat. Her face hardened once more. She fished into her designer purse and drew out a compact pistol. Are you threatening me? She demanded, voice trembling barely enough to indicate nerves. She did not brandish the weapon, but she held it intentionally so that I could see it. Because I'm feeling threatened right now. My brain shifted gears. 20 years in Delta Force made the particulars crystal clear. .380 caliber, safety off, trigger finger resting casually, not properly aligned, hands trembling slightly, no aim, no stance. An amateur, employing a gun not as protection, but as a bluff. You're bringing a firearm into a house where a medically fragile child is struggling to breathe? I whispered. My voice didn't increase. It didn't have to. I'd already worked out exactly how quickly I could cover the space between us and take her gun away. I have a concealed carry permit, she bristled, empowered, and every right to defend myself if I feel threatened. Behind me, the monitor's alarm keened. Higher, quicker. Olivia's oxygen levels were dipping. Her voice broke through gasping breaths. Dad, I'm afraid. I looked at her, only for an instant, then back at Victoria. Her eyes darted, only for a second. Had that been shame? Uncertainty? It was gone as fast, replaced by cold defiance. Turn off that alarm, she instructed. It's breaking the peace. In that instant, something long ago primeval stirred in me. Not the strategic thinking of a soldier, not a practiced move after years of being trained by the best. This was a father who saw his child struggle for air as some stranger pointed a gun and insisted on silence. I moved closer. Put down the weapon. Get out. Now. Perhaps it was the tone in which I said it. Perhaps it was the tempest brewing behind my eyes. But she retreated half a step. And then, whether to regain control or simply out of blind terror, she raised the gun slightly higher. That was enough. What came next? Well, let's just say even she afterward told the police, I didn't even see him move. She never noticed. In the blink of an eye, the weapon was away from her hand, stripped and locked down, disabled. In a single smooth motion, my Delta Force unit had once christened the Ghost. It was a disarming move so quick, so smooth, that to anyone who wasn't trained, it seemed like magic. Victoria found herself suddenly engulfed in a hold, gentle, firm, unbreakable. No bruises, no pain, just complete control. All of it, less than 2 seconds. What? How? She breathed, the arrogance wiped from her face, replaced with confusion and fear. Olivia, I said, not looking away from Victoria, still holding her at bay with one arm. Can you get to your phone, honey? My daughter, despite her unevenly rising chest with the tension, grasped her specialized phone, small fingers closing around the emergency button. A lady with a gun in our home, she relayed to the dispatcher, weak voice yet distinct. Dad needs assistance. Victoria struggled in my hold. Let me go. This is assault. When my husband finds out, your husband? I cut in, voice steady but chilly. You're talking about the judge? He'll be very interested to hear his wife entered a house with a medically dependent child and triggered a medical emergency involving a loaded weapon. For the first time, genuine fear pierced her aplomb. I didn't intend to. I wasn't actually going to, she faltered. Save it for the officers, I told her bluntly, relaxing my grip slightly so I could look at Olivia. She was stuck, but fine, at least for the time being. Get through it, Liv. Rescue's coming soon. It wasn't till 7 minutes later when the cops drove up that Victoria had proceeded with the emotions. Anger, denial, negotiations, and then sulking muteness. The officers approached, quickly gauged the scene. One officer stopped motionless for an instant, nodded. Captain Morrison? David Morrison, he said. Of Operation Shadowfall? I gave a fleeting nod, grimy but unfazed. Veterans had befriended vets, even on main streets in middle American suburbs. He pivoted toward his teammate. Delta Force, this dude is the real thing, one of the best. He gazed then at Victoria, truly long enough so that you could notice something registering within him. She had chosen the most ill-advised dwelling on the lot. When paramedics streamed in around Olivia, monitoring her vital signs, setting her oxygen, I continued on a relatively tranquilized account of events. Victoria, grasping the seriousness of what she'd done, started to fall apart. Desperate to justify, to deflect blame, to cover up what couldn't be done. Trespassing, brandishing a weapon, causing a medical emergency, disrupting life-sustaining medical equipment. All charges piled up like bricks in a wall that she couldn't climb. Working as a volunteer at the Children's Hospital downtown, specifically within the pediatric respiratory wing. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. She spent her days wheeling wheelchairs, sanitizing equipment, and listening, really listening, to families like mine. Her pride, once as keen as a razor, had numbed, chastened not by discipline, but by the gradual realization of the hurt she had almost inflicted. Meanwhile, Mountain View Estates had changed. The fear that had hung over the community like a storm cloud had dissipated. Neighbors spoke now, shared meals, traded stories, watched over one another. And my daughter? Olivia smiled more, laughed again. Her health remained stable with the new backup system, and her confidence flourished knowing she wasn't merely tolerated here. She was protected, loved, and respected. As for me, I finally opened the last moving box, because for the first time in years, I wasn't getting ready to leave. I was constructing a life, not as a soldier, not as a menace, but as a father, a neighbor, and a man who had kept a secret vow to protect his daughter at all costs. Working as a volunteer at a residential facility for children with disabilities, the same kind of facility she had cruelly implied Olivia belonged in, Victoria started down a path nobody could have envisioned. 6 months after, Mountain View Estates organized its first Accessibility Awareness Day at the community park. Olivia, whose health continued to improve gradually due to lowered stress and the encouragement of our new friends, was guest of honor. Her ventilator boasted stickers and happy trappings, lovingly applied by children from the neighborhood. To them, her respirator wasn't scary or strange. It was fantastic technology that enabled their friend to breathe and play with them. As Olivia told her stories to interested but respectful neighbors, I spotted a familiar figure at the periphery of the group. Victoria Harrington. She appeared different, humbler, her designer clothing replaced by jeans and a volunteer shirt from the children's center where she now worked. Our eyes locked. She did not move any closer, holding to the restraining order that still stood, but she nodded once, a silent acknowledgement of understanding she had not previously had. Later that night, while I assisted Olivia with her breathing treatments, she caught me off guard with a question. Dad, do you think people can really change? Like really deep down inside? I hesitated, recalling Victoria, of the neighbors who had finally mustered the courage, of the people who had come up out of fear to solidarity. I think people can surprise you, I said truthfully, both with how cruel they can be and how much they can grow. Olivia's wise beyond her years eyes sized me up. In Delta Force, you had to hurt bad people sometimes, right? My heart constricted. We'd never discussed that aspect of my service. Sometimes, I admitted, to protect others. She nodded slowly. But you always gave them a chance to change first, didn't you? In that instant, I came to realize something. My daughter had learned a lesson that took me years of fighting to realize. That real strength doesn't come in the form of the capacity to hurt, but in the sense to realize when not to. Yes, I whispered. That's right, exactly. Olivia smiled, her face bathed in the soft light of her monitors. That's what I figured. That's why you're a hero, Dad. Not because you're tough enough to fight, but because you prefer not to. As I tucked her into bed that evening, surrounded by the machinery that sustained her and the love that made life worth living for her, I recalled the odd, circuitous road